101 passion fruits.
So Derica has started growing passion fruit.
I grew a lot of passion fruit.
Like our entire backyard is covered with passion fruit vines. It's insane. So, we grew them with the idea of, oh yeah, let's eat them. Well, I'm not a huge fan of them. They're kind of weird.
I like them, but Brian has this weird crunchy fruit thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the crunchy fruit
Like
thing.
pomegranates, not really a fan. The flavor's okay. The crunch thing bothers me. And somebody said, why don't you make a mead? So we're making a mead. Really, really simple. We have 101 passion fruits that have already been scooped. Well, tell them what you had to do.
So I harvested the passion fruit, and when I got a good amount of them, I would go ahead and slice the top off and very carefully with a spoon, stir them all up like it's an egg. You've seen the crazy movies where they do that. And then dump all its guts out in a bowl.
So basically we're going to make a mead with passion fruit guts.
And then I froze it so that it would keep.
Right.
And I kept doing that, and I marked the numbers so that way I'd know how many I had, and then, ta-da, 101.
And it was 101. I mean, that's just so perfect. So, okay, to do this, what's the first thing that we need?
Well, the first thing we need when we were thinking about this is we want a vessel large enough that ideally we would end up with a full gallon of product. Thus, our selection of the Little Big Mouth Bubbler.
Why are we using a Little Big Mouth Bubbler?
Because it's larger than a gallon. It's actually 1.4 gallons.
And because it has a nice wide mouth so we can put a whole bunch of stuff in it.
And remove said stuff when the time calls
Exactly. Now, something else of note. People ask this all the time. Headroom in primary does not matter. We could put this much liquid in the bottom of here and it's okay in primary. Don't even worry about it. In this stage, it's perfectly fine. But we will probably be more or less filling this guy up. But what's the next thing we need?
The next thing we need is honey. And the honey that we decided on, because we're so fond of it and we thought it would be great combination with the passion fruit, is Bevy's Orange Blossom Honey.
Bevy is a sponsor of the show. She does have a way to purchase her honey. I think she's working on being able to ship it. Don't quote me on that, but I think she's working on that.
We will have her contact information in the description below so you can find out.
Absolutely. Some of the best honey I have ever had. Like hands down, just fantastic. She's very hands-on with the bees, very organic, very naturalistic, and holistic, I think is the word she uses, about the way she does things. So she's as good to the bees as you can possibly be while still taking away their food. Just saying. Okay, so I'm going to be doing pounds here, so let me change the mode to pounds and ounces. Okay, so
we know that the passion fruit sugars, the sugars that the passion fruit is going to give this brew, is actually rather limited. So we're going to stick with our true and tried 3 pounds of honey as our starting.
Now, the reason why we're using 3 pounds of honey is because I like to be around a 1.100 original gravity when we start out. If you don't know what that even means, we do have videos explaining what specific gravity means and how it can suit you and how to use readings and all that kind of thing. So each pound of honey, by the way, my hand is totally sticky. I have to stick it in turbos in a minute. The whole point is a pound of honey gives 0.035 specific gravity when it's mixed into a gallon, not a pound, a gallon of must. So 3 pounds is 1.105 original gravity. The fruit from the passion fruit might be a few more points, so we're still within the realm of normality for us, which realm of normality for us. That just sounds so wrong to say.
That doesn't exist.
Speaking of washing my hand off in turbos, everything that we've used here today and everything you're going to see us use has been sanitized in
the red bucket of sanitization!
Which is literally a red bucket just off camera filled with sanitizer fluid. Ours is Star San, and it is Star San mixed to the manufacturer's suggested amounts. Someone asked me the other day, do we put pure Star San or diluted Star San in our airlocks?
Diluted.
It's diluted. You do not want to use the non-diluted Star San for anything other than storage in the original bottle that it came in.
It's an acidic-based sanitizer, so if you put acid in a plastic airlock,
it'll melt it.
Bad things are going to happen.
I need to wash my hand. I'll be right back.
All right, so shockingly enough, we have babbled long enough that we have to reset our scale.
Turned off. Timed out.
Yep.
I don't know. I talked too long. Please.
Kasha.
Anyway, so 3 pounds going in.
Okay, so 3 pounds of honey is in our fermenter, but this is kind of complicated because we want that honey to be diluted in solution, but we want to put our passion fruit in a brew bag So I'm going to suggest that we add a bit of water and stir with a spoon before we get too carried away.
Can we do something else too?
We can do something else.
Now, because this is just a fruit, there's not going to be a lot of skins or anything like that. There's a lot of seeds, but I don't know that these seeds are really going to give enough tannins. Tannins are what gives mouthfeel, adds complexity, makes your mouth go when you drink tea, you know, without any sweetener in it. So it's a good thing in wines and meads, don't worry. I've made some black tea. The brand is irrelevant.
Irreverent.
Irrelevant. Yeah. We got our mix all tucked up there for a minute. Let me start that again. The brand is irrelevant. Basically, it's black tea. Can you use Earl Grey? Sure. Can you use some other herbal, celestial seasonings, whatever you want? Yes. But if you use anything other than just a straight black tea, it's going to be different than what we're producing here today. That's my rant because people always ask. But hey, yeah, you can certainly, it's your mead. Do what you want. I have 1 tea bag's worth of tea. The amount of water is also irrelevant because the tea only extracts so much from the tea bag. It was steeped for 5 minutes. Therefore, it's not oversteeped. It's not going to be too bitter. Actually smells like a really nice tea. And it's also still pretty warm. So I'm going to dump that right in right now on top of our honey. If nothing else, it'll help it to break up just a little bit. We are going to add some water though.
So this was warm when I poured it. It's
Define warm.
Kind of warm. It's barely warm.
It's like body temperature.
Yeah.
I don't like to say room temperature. We've said that before and people said, yeah, well, I keep my house at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And other people keep their house at 110. Wow, that's a wide range. So I like to say body temperature or a little bit below body temperature. Feels like a very warm body. So maybe it's a little bit above body temperature. But it's not anywhere near the danger zone. The danger zone is once you get past like 110, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll put some metric equivalents in the bottom here. Once you get past that, you're starting to get to where you could be harming your yeast. So be very careful with that. And I'm just gonna go part way up.
About there-ish. Yeah. Maybe, oh wait, I don't know.
Gotta do the shake. It just reminded me of that, you know?
It reminded me of Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, yeah. Okay, now, why do we only fill it part way? Because we do have other things to go in here, and I just want to start the mixing process. I want to get that honey mixed through. This could take a few minutes, and it's okay to get a little splashy with it, because you do want to get some oxygen in there. See how I just do the reverse thing? Get it going good, and then reverse. Oh, it's heavy, it's not going. So I just want to mix this up for a couple of minutes, and you know, my general rule of thumb still applies. When you're mixing something by hand or when you're doing it with a spoon, which is still kind of by hand, mix as long as you think you need to, and then go at least 2 minutes more. This is also known as getting all the bejesus out. Even though nothing's really coming out. We're just shaking the bejesus. We're mixing the bejesus out of it. Yeah, because that makes sense. It works so much better when I'm holding the jug and shaking. Yeah. You'd have to see that in another video. Another way to make mixing this a little easier is if you have your honey heating up in the warm water, that helps too. Sometimes honey crystallizes, just let it sit in warm water, not the honey itself, like leave the whole container in the warm water. And that way, you know, you have the warm water and you have warmer honey, it'll mix a little bit easier too. This is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, I think I'm done, so I'm gonna go 2 more minutes.
All right, so we got our honey, we got our tea, we got our stirring, we got some water for dilution. Now we have to make some decisions. Ideally, we want to put the passion fruit in next, but that is going to vastly limit our ability to continue to stir this. So, do we want to add the fermented O now?
Yeah, we can add the fermented O. We can also add the other ingredient that has yet to be mentioned. That's going in straight in. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have here a Mandarin orange. Now, I like Mandarin oranges. I like them better than regular oranges. Why? Well, mostly because they're really easy to eat. And, you know, you can just peel them, like what I'm doing. And what we're doing is we're taking the peel of the Mandarin orange and putting it right in. I just felt the Mandarin orange complemented the passion fruit pretty nicely. So it was just a little flavor addition. Do you have to do this? No. Can you use lemon peel? Sure. Can you use orange peel? Sure. You can use lime peel if you really want it to be crappy, but, you know, I wouldn't do that.
You use grapefruit peel if you really want it to be crappy.
That would be extra crappy.
All right, so I stole this from Brian before he unceremoniously dumped it in there because I wanted to show you that there's actually very little pith in the mandarin orange peel. And that's why he's just throwing the whole peel in there rather than carefully scraping it.
You don't want to bother.
Because it's just really annoying. And with that little amount of pith, we're not concerned about the bitter, tart addition that pith tends to give a brew.
But I do want to address something, and that is most produce that we get comes from the grocery store or from our backyard. If it's from the backyard, we feel pretty good about it. If it's from the grocery store, which, you know, we don't grow mandarin oranges in our backyard, it's probably treated with some sort of something on the skin. And I know it's bad to ingest those things. So they get a really good scrub at the sink, and then we dunk them in turbos just to be on the safe side. Does that get rid of everything? Well, of course not. But you know what? It's about as good as it's going to get, because even if you were to eat that afterwards, you're still going to get some of those. It's still in the fruit itself. It's a part of modern life, and it sucks, but that's just the way it is. So you just do the best you can with what you have available.
All right, so at this point, we are ready to add our passion fruit. And
I thought you wanted me to do fermento first.
Oh, right. Great. Sorry.
So I'm going to be adding fermento. How much fermento do we have here?
2 grams of fermento that Brian has diluted in some water.
And I'm mixing it with the wuss, also known as the whisk of unusually small size. Basically, let this sit for a couple minutes and it'll break up a lot easier. You just want to get it all mixed up.
If you dump it straight in, it tends to be all clumpy, and Brian doesn't like that. It makes him very irritated, so...
Because then I don't know that it's working. If it's clumps forever, it's not working.
This is the method that we use that makes Brian happy. Use the method that makes you happy. And be happy.
It should make everybody happy. It's a good method.
All right, so now we're going to add our passion fruit. We've decided that we're going to use a fermentation bag, aka a nut milk bag, to put our passion fruit in. But we want to make sure that it stays submerged. So in that bag, we are going to add a pickle pebble. What
Pickle
are they?
pebble.
Pickle pebble.
It's a fermentation weight.
It's a fermentation weight. It's just a glass weight. We like these because they are glass, so I can sanitize it, which I did, and then very carefully place it in the bag.
Unless you're me, I drop it.
You don't want to drop it because that's a big chunk of glass.
But I also know that the bag won't reach the bottom.
Going into a big chunk of glass, so.
I also know the bag won't reach the bottom. Okay, guess what? It is time for the mess. Why don't you start with the smallest one first for practice?
That's my plan.
So these were frozen and then thawed. So while she cleaned all the passion fruits first before they were all scooped out and frozen, they were frozen as well. So that should kill off some more microbes, and it should also help break up the cell walls. So this stuff should pulp pretty readily. Looks like a bunch of tadpoles being floated.
It kind of does.
It really does. With eggs. Tadpoles mixed with eggs. That's what this looks like.
It's the...
Oh, wow. It smells, though. Like, in a good way.
I'm like, what do you mean?
It's very, like, citrusy.
But it's got a slight floral hint to it, too.
Yeah, citrusy, floral. A little bit of grapefruit in there. Yep.
Oh, get in there.
It's fine. He's only a percentage of the 101st. It's fine.
All right, I'm going for the big one now.
All right. It does smell really good. I think this is going to be interesting.
Sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yeah, it's a good thing I backed up, too. I saw little pieces going all over the place.
Now you know what it feels like to be me. In there.
Her fingers were sanitized in case anyone was curious.
Everything was sanitized.
We walk through a shower of sanitization liquid as we enter this room. All the air in this room has been run through a sanitizer. I'm just joking. We don't really do that. All right, so that's all that's going in the bag, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to seal up the bag. Am I clear for bag sealing?
You are clear for sealing.
Okay, so because there's a lot of little pieces, I'm going to try to do the thing where you lift it up a bit and you get it wrapped around down here and just wrap it around a couple times and then we tie it off.
So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing the different strata that is already occurring based on the fruit juice and the honey mixture, and a question just popped into my mind that I hadn't considered until this point.
What's that?
Should we add pectinase?
Probably. I think we probably should. Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of pectin in passion fruit. I looked it up. Pectinase is pectic enzyme. It helps to break down the fruit a little bit more too. So we'll give a little bit more juice from the fruit, a little bit more of the sugars, but it also keeps it from becoming a cloudy, hazy mess. Now, I want to be clear on something. This is not something that we do all the time.
This is an optional step, but because we are using fresh fruit, granted it's been frozen and unfrozen.
The pectin is still there. If you want to skip the pectinase step, by all means, you don't have to. It's not actually a requirement. The brew will probably be just fine. It'll taste great. We are going to do it. She's got a point. It's probably going to need it, so I'll be right back. Okay, pectic enzyme. You can get this at any local homebrew shop. You can also get it on Amazon. We have links below on where we get ours. And it's from LD Carson, this particular one. It's all basically the same stuff. And on the package, it actually says, use a ½ teaspoon per US gallon of juice or 1/10 teaspoon per pound of fruit 1 hour before the start of fermentation. We're roughly going to be about an hour before then, so I'm going to put it in. We have used it at the end of fermentation to help as a clearing agent, and you use double. So it actually does work pretty well. But we're just going to put in the ½ teaspoon right now. I'm going to give that a little stirry stir as opposed to the shaky shake, because I'm not lifting this thing up and shaking it. No way.
All right, so what are your thoughts about our fluid level? Do you want to add more?
Well, I know we started with about 112 ounces and we have 64 left. So we don't have a lot of water in here. A lot of our volume is actually taken up by the pulp. Okay. But there was a good amount of water in that pulp. So I don't think we're going to be filling it with the full gallon of water. Normally use about 96 ounces to make a gallon with 3 pounds of honey. Let me say that again. Normally, if you're making a gallon of mead and you're using 3 pounds of honey, the rest of the fluid to make up the 1 gallon will be about 96 or so ounces of water. So I know that's roughly how much water I want to add, but I don't think I'm going to be able to fit that much in here. So we're going to just go a little bit higher and see what we end up with. I can give you a rough idea of how much water we use. All right, so we started with 112. We're at about 40 now. So we used like 72 ounces. So significantly less, but we're probably still gonna end up with about a gallon of actual ferment because, like I said, a lot of liquid in the juice itself in the passion fruit.
All right, so the only thing left on my list at this phase is to add our yeast of selection. But we probably want to go ahead and do a gravity reading first.
Yeah, we can take a gravity. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to add more water is because the bag end kept floating up and out, and I didn't want that to be sticking out because that's how mold can form, things like that. I know the orange peel is sticking in the top, and that's kind of okay. I'm not gonna get too crazy about that. It probably won't be in there super long, probably not gonna be a problem. But you do want to agitate every day to keep that moist, okay? So, take a gravity reading. And what she means by that is specific gravity. We use...
Did you stir enough from the bottom to the top? Because it will affect our gravity reading.
I believe I did this.
Oh, okay. Then you should be fine.
Yeah, I got everything moving. What she's talking about is if you don't mix it, you're not going to get an actual accurate reading. Wow, we are getting our mix all talked up today. So you want to make sure that it's mixed up really well at each stage of the game. Now, gravity reading, really simple. We're using a turkey baster. This one won the master baster in our master baster video, and a hydrometer with a
graduated cylinder.
Thank you. Ours is 100 mil because the 250 was just way stupid huge, and it took like 5 times of this to fill it up. So this one only takes twice. Again, these were all sanitized, so everything's totally safe to use. And what you want to do is just get it until it floats, like that. We do have videos on how to read a hydrometer, so I'm not going to go over that here. But let me just give you the reading. It should be somewhere in the 1.120 range or so. What do you know? 1.118, so pretty darn close. Now, that number may go slightly up for the first few hours as the fruit extracts some of those sugars, but we're not going to be taking another reading for at least a week or two, so I'm not worried about it. Some people dump this out. I am not some people. You know why? Because we cleaned everything. Why waste it?
All right, so the last thing for us to do at this stage is to add our yeast choice. And today's yeast choice is...
Mangrove Jack's MO5. Why? Because we have half a packet left. No, actually, there's a good reason. Tell them, Derica.
So Mangrove Jack's is really good because it's going to work in a variety of temperature ranges. So
it's also really good for bringing out floral flavors and things like that, which passion fruit has a lot of florals to it. So it works really well for that.
It does create those esters, particularly if you're fermenting it in a cooler environment. Obviously, we're not going to be that cool here.
Probably about 75 degrees Fahrenheit on average is where we're at. It's also a high alcohol tolerance yeast. So this is like 18%, I believe. This should go dry. What I mean by dry is down to like 1.000 or below, or as close to that as possible. I don't believe that there's a lot of non-fermentable sugars in here. I know some honeys do have a little bit, but it should go pretty darn close to that. And then we'll adjust the taste later. So I'm just gonna add this in. I have half a packet here. Normally I would like to use a whole packet, but today we're doing a half. Some always stick to the inside, so...
Back your packet!
Yeah, okay, so there we go. I would normally like to mix this at this point. However, I don't like the way they might get stuck on things, so I'm gonna use the wuss and just move it around.
There you go.
Yeah, the yeasts will stick to everything. So if I stuck the spoon in there, they're gonna stick to it. And then they're not in there and they're separated from their family and it's this whole big thing. And,
crying.
Yeah. Technically, you don't have to do this step at all. The yeast will hydrate and get in there. Some people like to hydrate their yeast. Some packages of yeast say to do so. We've found through our hundreds of brews in the last few years that it's really not all that necessary. I mean, if the yeast dies and it didn't actually take off, which I don't think we've actually had happen, then you just repitch new yeast, no big deal. You can, if you want to, hydrate that yeast and be 100% sure that it's gonna work before you pitch it, all good.
All right, so now we're gonna put our lid and airlock on. These lids have a never-ending supply of teeth, so that way they get a really good seal.
Also known as threads.
So you just wanna make sure that you get it on nice and tight.
Yep.
And it has a very thin foam layer in the top. Please don't throw that away. That is very important because that's what's going to compress to create that seal.
Now, why do we use an airlock?
We use an airlock to keep bugs out.
Literal bugs, fruit flies, stuff like that.
And probably even more importantly, to let the gas that's created by the fermentation process to escape.
Right, if you just put a hard lid on this and cranked it down, this is a bomb. It's going to explode. A lot of people will say, and we've done it in a couple of videos where you just leave the cap loose. If you have no way to get an airlock, or you're just starting out and you're afraid you might not like it, so you don't want to make the investment, it's almost sort of acceptably okay to do once.
But as far as equipment goes, airlocks are probably one of the least expensive items.
Yeah, and to me, it's necessary. Just use the airlock. I mean, if you think you're gonna make more than one brew, use an airlock, okay? Just use an airlock.
All right, so what are we gonna do now?
We're gonna let it sit. She got me. Normally that's her line. So yeah, this will probably take a couple of weeks to ferment, and once the airlock activity starts to slow down, not that that means it's done, it's just an indication that, well, things are starting to slow down a little bit. We'll be back to show you how it's doing. All right, so it's been 1 week, and our airlock has slowed down significantly. We did have some crazy problems with the bag. These bags apparently keep gases in a lot more than we really want them to.
I actually have an educated guess on that because the pulp that we were using, the passion fruit pulp, is so small yet
Oh, you think it clogged it?
slimy in texture. I think it clogged those really fine holes in our bag. Thus, when the fermentation was creating those gases, it just pushed everything up like a balloon. And unfortunately, that went up against our aperture there.
It's a very small hole.
Where the gases are supposed to escape, and they couldn't escape, and it was just making a mess.
Visual inspection. Looks pretty good in there. The bag, you can see, is puffed up. I have been poking it down and trying to keep things moving around. The orange peel also would get pushed up against that, and I was just afraid of it literally exploding, like blowing the cap off. So be careful of that if you do this. I think she might be onto something with the pulp and the bag, because we've never really had that problem with these bags before.
Yeah, I think it's the texture
Keep in
of
mind,
the pulp.
there's a weight in that bag too. It's still floating. So today we're gonna determine if we're keeping the fruit in or taking it out. From the smell of things, which means like the aroma of the fruit, it smells like passion fruit.
It does.
We may not need the fruit anymore. But let's see how the fermentation's going. Okay, so this started at 1.118, which is, on the higher side of where we like to be. And today that's looking like 1.004 to me. Now, does that mean it's done? Maybe, not necessarily, but I I do want to get a small sample of this one. We don't normally take samples this early for tasting, but what we want to do is see if it's time to remove that bag.
Now this is really early, so we're not expecting this to taste good. We just want to determine, did we actually get enough of the passion fruit essence out?
So it's really cloudy, super cloudy. Super passion fruit smell.
Yes.
It does not smell bad. It actually smells like passion fruit juice. Okay. I think there's enough passion fruit in there because it's starting to taste like something that I don't like. Tastes like grapefruit, which passion fruit is grapefruit adjacent in flavor to me. So I'm not surprised. It's not bad though. It's still got a little bit of sweetness to it.
I'll finish it.
Yeah. So what I want to do is get a colander and a bowl so that we can pull that bag out and let the juices drip.
So I am going to sanitize both the colander and the bowl so that way we can let those juices drip, but put those juices back in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a sanitized colander, a sanitized bowl, and sanitized hands. So I'm going to get in here.
Mine are sanitized too. She's just closer.
He also has the sticky hand phenomenon, so I'm trying to...
It's not really sticky as much as juicy.
Trying to alleviate some of his tensions. Now, as much as I don't want to, I am going to squeeze this a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of juice in there. And we haven't racked this yet, so it's okay. I mean, it's already cloudy anyway. What's the worst that can happen? It gets more cloudy. A lot of juice in there. All right, so what we're going to do now, that's going to sit for a few minutes, let it drip out a little bit more. I am going to put the lid on just to keep, you know, hair and flies and stuff out. Not that our house is full of hair and flies. It's just, you know, it's a thing you do, all right? And once that's drained, we're going to pour it back in. You do want to be careful as you're pouring it that you don't introduce too much oxygen. There's always a little bit of a risk, but just be careful. We have not degassed, so there is some CO2 in there. It helps. It's not, you know, the end all be all, but it does help. In the meantime, after that, what are we going to do?
We're going to let it sit.
And be back in like another week maybe to check that gravity and see if it goes down anymore, see if this is really done. It's been exactly 7 days. Guess what it's time for? Another reading. Now, the last time we looked at this, see I have notes. Last time we looked at this, it was 1.004. We just removed the bag. So the fruit's been removed, but it wasn't actually racked. So there's still some orange peel floating around in here. But today we're gonna take our last check reading, verification reading. I like
verification.
That. Verification reading.
Or verifying.
Now, what does this verify? It verifies that fermentation is complete. Because it was at 1.004, it was very close to dry. It's entirely possible that it's actually done. We just want to make sure of that.
So as Brian is doing this, I'm getting a strong aroma of passion fruit.
I have not gotten a smell yet. I'm a little far away from it.
Which is good for me and bad for Brian, because if you're familiar with passion fruit,
smells like grapefruit.
Kind of has eau de la grapefruit.
Eau de grapefruit. Okay, this is 1.002. I'm going to say this is done. Someone asked actually recently, how much variance in numbers can there be before it's considered done and not done? And that's a really good question. I go with like 2 points, just because I may have looked at it a little bit weird one day. If it's more than like 4 points away, I'm going to say that's not done. But a little common sense comes into play too. It's at 1.002. The likelihood of it going much lower is kind of slim, so it's fine. So we are 9, 21, 22, 1.002. So first thing that everybody always asks is, how much alcohol did we make? So I'm going to pull out the calculator the teacher said I would never have handy. It was in my pocket. And I'm going to go through that right now. So this started out with a 1.118 original gravity. It ended at 1.002 original gravity. I'm going to have the equation on the screen. We also have videos explaining this in greater detail. That gives me 0.116, or 116 points used, times 135, which is my coefficient of choice, gives me 15.6% alcohol. Wow.
Not too shabby.
This is one of the higher brews we've made. Well, recently. We don't really go this high much anymore. But I'm going to call this done. We are going to take a quick sample taste just because, you know, hey, we're brewers. It's what you do, right? And I'm going to set that to the side because it's going to go into the other fermenter so I don't disturb any leaves that are in here. Oh yeah, smells a lot like passion fruit. It smells better than grapefruit.
When our passion fruit was in full production mode, I was eating passion fruit as much as I was
Yeah.
freezing passion fruit. There was just passion fruit upon passion fruit. It was
I
nuts.
tried one.
It was
Not my
my
thing.
first season growing passion fruit, and because I wasn't familiar with it, I chose 4 vines. Well, all
Took over
4
the
of my
yard.
vines just said, yay! And they went crazy, so.
Yeah, I think we're cutting back to like half a vine for next year. We just don't need that much passion fruit. I mean, she was pulling in 20 or 30 of them a day for a while. It's actually clearing up relatively well for as young as it is. I mean, this is literally only like 14 days old. You know, this is 2 weeks old. On the smell, I get a little bit of that grapefruit thing, and I know that's just part of passion fruit. I'm okay with it.
Did you actually eat any of the passion fruit?
One.
Okay.
I think I took a bite. Okay, significantly better than grapefruit. Way better. It's very tangy. It's not my thing, okay? But I'm trying to be unbiased and not partial.
But from your remembrance of your...
It tastes like passion fruit.
It tastes 100% like passion fruit.
Yeah.
I am super excited about this beverage.
I'm getting more passion fruit than honey at this point, which is a little bit crazy, but the I think
passion fruit
the
wine.
little bit of the Mandarin orange peel, though, is definitely helping.
Yes.
It's taking that tartness back a bit. Tangy is the word I want to say.
This reads passion fruit. There's
This
no
would make
question.
a great marinade.
Yeah.
That's what this. It's not my thing to drink. Like I say, I'm trying to be impartial. It's actually really amazingly good for 2 weeks old. For 2 weeks old, this does not taste 2 weeks old.
If you like passion fruit,
you will love this. Absolutely.
You would be happy.
But let's get to racking. Now, racking just means we're going to take this out of this vessel and move it to another vessel, mostly so that we have this vessel to be able to make something else.
So in racking, we are going to be leaving behind our orange peel. We're going to be leaving behind the least cake at the bottom and trying to just have pure beverage in the next vessel.
We have videos on racking. It's very, very simple. We use an auto siphon. So we'll just jump ahead to when this is already racked and see in a minute.
Ta-da!
And you know what? It got cloudy. You know why? The auto siphon moved. So it sucked up a little bit of the lees. It's okay. This is just the first rack. If we have to do another racking, we'll do another racking. It's no big deal. This will clear out. It'll all fall out of suspension. But look at how much. That's beautiful right there. See, that's not even head space. That's like eye space. It's not. It's like forehead space. It's not even head space. So that's about what you're looking for in an ideal world. That said, we've not encountered a real problem from having too much headspace, okay? It's not a good idea, so you want to minimize it if you can, but it's not like go crazy to worry about it kind of thing.
Also, if you remember, our ABV on this is
15.6.
So
vinegar is not a problem.
10 ABV, 10% ABV is when vinegar starts to be like, oh, I don't think I can do my thing. 15 is like, nope. Can't do it.
However, just like yeast, acetobacters can't read.
True.
So some amount of tolerance is probably there, but I would say 15.6, we're reasonably safe, okay? It's off flavors that you want to watch out for with the too much oxygenation. That's my real concern, not making vinegar. I don't think we've ever made vinegar.
No. And even in the off flavor category, there's some speculation onto whether that's a negligible thing or a positive thing. Because if you think about it, sherry...
A negative thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, some people like the off flavors.
Right. But in this particular thing...
It's unpredictable,
We
though.
want to avoid it and just let it sit.
So this is going to go for probably another couple of weeks, and we'll be back to show you what it looks like then. So 8 more days have gone by. Let's just take one more reading to be on the safe side and make sure it's really done. We are expected to rack it today, but we're just going to take a quick reading here. 1.002. 1.002 was last time, so as expected, this is perfect. So what we want to do now is actually do our, well, we can rack it to the pitcher, but we're going to take a taste of it first. So let's just pour some samples off of this right here. We've started doing this, and I like the idea of doing it now, the tasting that is, because then we can make any adjustments that are needed before it goes into the bottle. So that way...
If you think about it, it makes more sense, because why wait till it's bottled and go, oh, well, this could have used this. Why not figure that out first before we put it in the bottle?
All right. I remember this now.
It smells like passion fruit, which Brian is going to translate to it smells like pineapple, but he's wrong.
No,
it's
grapefruit.
passion fruit. Oh, right. Grapefruit.
Oh, pineapple I like. Grapefruit, not so much. So it's reasonably clear. There was pectic enzyme added in primary. This came out reasonably clear. It's like a 7 to a 7.5 for clarity.
Well, yeah, I saw when you put it in the sampler, it was actually a lot clearer looking than what it is in there. So
the aroma is very fresh and very clean and very strong, okay? That's not a bad thing, just it happens to not be flavors that I'm quite fond of, so it's a little difficult.
If you are familiar and enjoy passion fruit, this will be lovely for you.
On the taste, it's, again, very clean, refreshing, crisp. There's a good astringency to it. I could appreciate this if it was sweeter. This is very dry. Well, obviously, it's 1.002. If this was sweeter, I think I would be able to appreciate this more.
All right.
There's a few ways to sweeten. Let's finish this first, though, and see. Because sometimes the more you drink of something, you can kind of acclimate to it. This is still... Whew. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of passion fruit. I tried it when she had them, and they're okay. They're not.
I think
really
it actually tastes more of grapefruit.
Oh yeah.
Than it smells.
Oh yeah.
It smells more passion fruit.
It tastes like drinking grapefruit juice. Okay. I think if it was sweeter. Yeah. Not my thing.
This just isn't going to be Ryan's thing, regardless of what we do to it.
If I had to put a score on this right now, I mean we're gonna score it before we bottle, but my score right now, it's about a 3. I'd even go maybe 2.5. It's just not, it's not good. She's probably like, what are you talking about? This is like an 8. Yeah, it's just so not something there's just certain things when you don't like them, you don't like them. And it's just, that's the way it is. Some things will never change. All right, I say we rack this though, and then we can sweeten. All right, when I look in this fermenter, I see little bits floating around, and that's just from leftovers of the pieces of fruit. So we have a piece of cheesecloth here. I'm gonna put it over the end of the auto siphon when we do the rack, and that way I won't be picking up any of that stuff. We are leaving the cap on because there's still a good amount of sediment in the bottom here. So let's just do this. Just gonna take our cheesecloth, wrap it over the end, make sure we have all the bits, and just kind of hold that. We have used rubber bands in the past, but they can be relatively unsanitary. They're not food safe. So we try to not do that if possible. But one thing that's gonna have to happen is she's gonna have to hold that lower because otherwise this is just never gonna go. So just do that, get it started, and we'll be back once it's racked. Okay, so we have almost exactly a gallon. We have like 122 ounces. And there's a lot of ways you can sweeten things, okay? We can add sugar, we can add honey. If we add those things, there's a possibility of re-fermentation. Now this is already sitting at 15.6%. It's a little slimmer, but MO5 yeast can actually go to 18%. Now, we can stop fermentation or prevent it by pasteurizing. We're trying different things, and one of the things that we want to try is using an artificial sweetener, a non-fermentable sugar, also known as erythritol. And there's a lot of ways to determine how much to put in here. The easiest way is trial and error, and that's what we're going to do today. I have here a 1/4 cup measure, and I already know this needs a pretty decent amount of sweetness. So I'm gonna start with a 1/2 cup. So I'm gonna do 2 1/4 cups. And the idea behind this method is we're sweetening the entire batch, we're gonna mix it up each time, and we taste it. When we get to where we like it, we're good, we stop. It's that simple. You can try to calculate the amount of sweetness and all that kind of thing, but here's the problem. Erythritol, allulose, things like that, they're only about 3/4 as sweet as real sugar. So even like if you take a gravity reading, it's not gonna be as accurate for sweetness because of that. So to me, I'd rather just test it. I mean, this is homebrew. We're not selling this stuff. We're not putting this on the market where we have to tell people any specifics or anything like that. We're making a safe brew that's not gonna re-ferment, that tastes good to us or to people that we might share it with.
In this case, probably just to me.
Yep, this is all for Derica. Even sweetened, I don't know that
Dad.
Yeah, your dad might like this.
I like this. He likes the passion fruit.
Okay, one thing I will say about erythritol is that 1/2 cup dissolved in like seconds. That's awesome. Okay, so let me grab a glass. We'll just pour out a little bit. Smell did not change.
I didn't expect it to.
I always expect it to change. It never does. I'm joking. I don't really expect it to change.
Now it tastes like grapefruit with the sugar sprinkled on top.
If you say so. Here you go. Hold on a second. There's somebody at our front door. It's a cat. Okay. I don't think that really changed it all that much. So I'm going to go in with 2 more quarter cups. She's like, what? Yeah, 2 more quarter cups it is.
There's this really cool restaurant with like this really interesting history in the middle of the state of Florida. I don't remember what town it's in because it's like this know-nothing town. But one of their specialties is baked grapefruit as like an aperitif type thing. And they
Please never take me there.
That was the point of my story is now truncated. Yes, we will not be taking Brian there.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut off your story, but baked grapefruit. Oh yeah, I want to take something that I don't like when it's fresh and bake it, making it concentrated flavors. Yeah. All right. So that is now a whole cup of erythritol in here, which if it was sugar is something like a pound, a little over a half pound, I think. It's almost palatable now.
I don't even know why I'm drinking this.
Just drink it. I'll drink the rest of that now. Okay. I think that's ready. What do you think?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, you were fine with it before we even started, weren't you? I can actually tolerate this now. It's not my favorite thing we've ever made, but I can tolerate it.
Imagine it chilled on a really hot day.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm looking at. It's tasting more and more like a lemonade to me.
Mm-hmm.
The sweeter it got, the better. I'm hesitant to add too much more because, I mean, I could, but hesitant to do too much more. I think it's right.
Okay.
So now we need to put a score on it before we bottle.
But we also need to mark on our notes before we forget how much erythritol we
1
actually
cup.
added. So it's 4 of those is 1. Okay, that was 1/4.
4/4
Okay.
is 1 cup.
I didn't know what measure you were using.
All right, so our scoring system goes 1 through 10. 1 being you probably wouldn't want to drink this at all and you'd probably dump it out. 10 being this is just awesome. You would drink this above all else, except for the couple of 11s that are a little bit better than that. 5 is like my personal cutoff. She may have a different cutoff. Where below 5, I'm less likely to actually drink it at all, okay? Above 5, I'm like, yeah, I would drink that. So, do you have a score?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 5.5. Yep, and there we see the disparity in our tastes. We already know this is not a flavor profile that I like. I can appreciate it for what it is. I don't think we did anything wrong. I think it's actually a very well done mead. And now that we've sweetened it the way we did, it's going to be a much better flavor all around for most people. I think with some age, this might actually be really, really nice.
We recently privately did just randomly think, if you could drink anything, what would you drink? Type of question between the two of us. And my answer was a mojito. Brian's answer was
Whiskey.
Okay. So you can see the disparity of
Is much
our
closer to
flavor
mojito.
profiles. I like the weird, almost discordant, really tart punch in the face with some alcohol, then a sweet combo going on. Where Brian likes the complexity.
Smoky Band-Aid.
Smoky Band-Aid, tar, rubber tire, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And we also have completely different drinking styles. Brian likes to just sip and enjoy, and sip and enjoy, and sip and enjoy, and sip and enjoy.
She likes to put the glass to her mouth and go.
And
it's true.
It's a weird thing because I tend to drink when I'm thirsty. So that can be problematic if you include alcohol into that scenario.
Yeah.
Where Brian is more about the experience and enjoying the flavors and the complexity. And so that's why he really enjoys the whiskeys. So when you think about that and where our preferences come from, it's obvious to see why this would be more in my wheelhouse than Brian's wheelhouse.
But at the very basis of it, I don't like grapefruit and I don't really like passion fruit. So right there, we already knew I really wasn't going to like this one. The fact that it got a 5.5 from me is pretty good. And that's only because I would actually drink this. I don't know that I'd reach for it over other things, but
Yeah.
I would drink it if it was put in front of me.
I would say if you enjoy passion fruit, if you're familiar with passion fruit, if you eat copious amounts of passion fruit,
You'll love this.
you will love this. And you
Because you don't even have to crunch on the
won't
seeds.
necessarily have to add as many sweeteners to it as we did in this particular
1 cup
vessel.
really isn't that much though.
So if you do like passion fruit, I would say go ahead and make this and then incrementally add to your discretion and your personal preference sweeteners if you even feel it's necessary.
Now, the next step that we're going to do on this is we're going to bottle it. We have videos where we show how to bottle. It's more or less just racking it into a bottle. We're going to use swing tops most likely or some screw caps. It's going to sit at room temperature in our room of wine storage, which is also just our washroom storage room.
Or the shelf.
Or on the shelf. And one of them we're going to keep for at least a year. One of them we might keep for 2 years. And then the others Jerica's probably going to drink. So we have to hide the 2-year and the 1-year one. But the trick to this is, like I said, we are not going to keep this chilled. A lot of people ask that question all the time. Do I keep it chilled? What do we do? No, we keep them at room temperature. We just put them in boxes. This should not re-ferment at all. It's been stable for several weeks. We added a non-fermentable sugar. So it's totally fine to bottle at this point.
And those are the important caveats to know when you're going to store for long term, is you want to make sure that your fermentation is completely done and you haven't done any alterations that may restart the fermentation.
Right, like adding more liquid could restart fermentation.
You want to make sure that you use proper sanitization practices so that way you know that the vessel that you're going to bottle and keep in long storage is completely clean and not going to have any weirdness in it that may cause issues for your beverage. And finally, you want to make sure that you keep it in the dark because direct sunlight is going to cause problems for your brew.
Now we say in the dark. Out of direct sunlight is really what's important. You see these things back here. They're not in the dark, obviously, but the sun does not ever touch them.
We have another bookshelf farther off camera that's closer to the window.
And it has books on it.
It's books. We don't put brews there, okay?
Right. So the window light never actually touches that, but you know, there is light in here and that kind of thing. So don't get crazy about that, but try to keep it as dark as possible. Most of ours are actually kept in boxes on shelves, so they are literally in darkness.
Yeah.
These guys aren't.
Our 1 year and our 2 years, we keep in cabinets so that they are completely in the dark.
Right. But anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.